There's a church in California that every Good Friday, they lock their doors, they board up their windows, they change their answering machine and their website to say, God is dead. There is no church. This church lives into the notion that this day is set apart and different from every other day in our Christian tradition. Because this is the day that God has died. And if you have ever taken a religious history class, you know that one of the features of gods is that they don't die. They're indestructible. The whole point of gods is that you can't kill them. The whole point is that gods are able to live on these mountaintops and they're able to survive the unsurvivable. Gods don't die. And yet here we are today on Good Friday, remembering that in fact our God hung on a cross to the point of death, was taken down from that cross and buried in a borrowed tomb. When I was growing up, I really struggled with the naming of Good Friday. I couldn't understand why we would call this day good. It seemed like such a bad day. Why would we call it good? Today is a day of darkness and despair and evil and unjust systems winning. It seemed like we should maybe call it Bad Friday or Evil Friday. And yet, we call it Good Friday. And that's because today is not about a vengeful God nailing Jesus to the cross because we are so unlovable or so sinful that the cross is the only way that God can ever be with us. Today is a reflection of the unjust and broken systems of Jesus' world and the unjust and broken systems of our world today. And a God who experiences unjust and evil and despair and hangs on the cross to the point of death alongside us. It used to be believed that God was like a timekeeper, that God would set the time with a watch in motion where you used to wind the clocks, that God would wind the clocks and the timekeeper in motion and set it down on the table and then walk away. It used to be believed that God was uncaring, that God set the plan of the world in action and then became completely disengaged from the world. But today teaches us something different. God is not disinterested or unaware of our suffering. God knows better than any single person in this room can ever know about suffering. God understands every piece of our despair and darkness and every piece of our trauma and death and guilt and mourning and every piece of the world that we wish we didn't experience. God intimately knows exactly what it is like. And that is, in fact, good news. The other piece about this is the liturgy of Good Friday. The liturgy of Good Friday, the way that we do church on Good Friday, is different than the way we do church any other day of the year. It mimics more the liturgy of the Word than it does morning prayer. There's no Eucharist. It is a day that is set apart and completely different. But the other really important thing that Good Friday does is almost what Good Friday does not do. Today we sit in darkness and despair and we remember Jesus' death. And we stop there. We're going to have solemn collects and anthems and we're going to sing songs and we're going to have prayers and all of them are going to focus on the hardships of the world. And we're going to do something that is incredibly uncomfortable. We're going to stop at Good Friday and we are not going to rush to what's happening on Easter Sunday. Liturgy in church should mimic what happens in our lives. We have ordinary time in the church, that long season after Pentecost where we wear green, where it's ordinary time. It should mimic the ordinary times of your life, the times where things are just kind of going along. Things are as they are. And then you have days of grand celebrations. You have Christmas where we welcome a baby. And you have Easter where we celebrate the resurrection. You have joyous celebrations in the church year. And you have Good Friday. You have darkness and death and despair. Because one thing that Good Friday does, because church leaders and Jesus and God and everybody knows that life is sometimes really hard. Sometimes it's just downright cruel. And there isn't always hope that immediately follows trauma and darkness and despair. Sometimes you sit in that for a while. And that's exactly what Good Friday allows us to do. Good Friday does not try to make better the pieces of our broken world. Good Friday brings them to the forefront and shows them as bare and broken and as awful as they are, and as much as we want to look away. Good Friday actually asks us to stare at them, to look and see the places of this world that are beyond broken, that are beyond unjust, the systems of our world that lead to an innocent man being tried and convicted for a crime that he did not commit and being punished for that crime to the point of death. Good Friday asks us to look at our broken world and to pause. And while it is not the end of the story, for tonight, we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it in hardship and darkness and hurt and pain. And I'm going to leave you with the promise that in that darkness and hardship and hurt and pain, God is hanging on the cross and understands our pain and our darkness and our despair. We do not walk through it alone.